Everyone, for another segment of Amazing Appraising, the show, the place to be, to hear, learn, study, be entertained with the hottest and most unique collectibles in the entire world. We have now an incredibly beautiful Panerai wristwatch. And let me just give you a little background if you don't know or heard of the company called Panerai. So Panerai is an Italian brand. They originally made watches, I believe, I'm going by memory here, I think they started making watches about the early 1910s, 1920s. They made watches for the Italian Marines, the Italian divers, and they made them out of a big clunk of stainless steel metal, very heavy, very strong. The idea, they used a black dial, so it was easy for a diver underwater to see the time. The big clunk of metal would protect it. It had a special thick glass. They had a unique patent crown protector, which they decided, or they realized, that the most vulnerable spot on the watch would be the part of the push button and crown. And so they put a special, over here, it's about a 5mm crown guard that protects the crown. So if the crown doesn't break, there's nothing really that will break on the watch. The crystal is about 3mm thick. It's like rock solid. You can chip it and scratch it. It's hard to do, but you can, but it typically will never break and water will never get into it unless, God forbid, a really major accident. So the story goes that they made the watches. They made some, I think, in the 50s too. And then when I guess about in the mid to late 1980s, we had a client came into our store. He was a very famous actor. He was known for the franchise of Rocky movies. His name was Sylvester Stallone. He's bought a lot of watches from us over the many years. And he's still a big draw in Hollywood, a big Hollywood icon. And he came into our gallery. We had a small store on 57th Street and 6th Avenue many years ago. And he came in with actually his brother and a young lady he just met. Her name was Jennifer Flavin, who turned out to be the best thing he ever happened in his life. Turned out to be his wife. He married her. He had a lot of rocky relationships, we'll say. And he met her, and she settled him down, we'll say, and she was a lovely, and still is a lovely woman, in keeping him, what they say in Hollywood, I guess, grounded. And anyhow, the story with the watches go, he became a big collector. He's bought watches every time he's seen us in New York. In fact, he used to come into our gallery the afternoon or the morning of whenever he would appear as a guest on the David Letterman show. And he wanted always to wear a special watch for his appearance on the show, a new watch that he never had before. I remember he bought some vintage Rolexes, some vintage Pateks, some vintage Vacherons, vintage Omegas. He bought a number of different watches over the years. He was really and is one of the nicest guys, and especially in Hollywood. So the story goes that since he knew about watches, he did some research on this brand called the Panerai brand. And he realized they really hadn't made watches from, I told you, the 1950s to date. This is around the time he met us, probably a little later, maybe about 1990 or so. And he got in touch with the company that used to make Panerais. Okay, let's just say the Panerai company, brand, license. And he told them, listen, would you be able to reproduce a similar watch as the basic watch that you used to make in the 30s and 40s? And I will pay you to make 200 pieces if you can do it. They sat down, they discussed it, they negotiated it, and he bought a small collection of 200 pieces, the first Panerais that were made, I think, since the 1950s. And they made it for him. It was called the Slytech. It had what's it called? A print, like an engraving of his signature, Sly Stallone, on the back of the watch. The watch was called the Slytech. And he gave them out to some of his closest friends in Hollywood and the entertainment business and the business in general. And of course, his friends are were and are some of the most influential and wealthy collectors in the world. And they became knowledgeable and interested in the Panerai watches and would say, "Sly baby, where can I get one of these? I want to buy another one. I want my friend saw it. He wants me to get him one. I want to get him one. Ba 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 ba. He likes the style. Can you find me anything like this, exactly like this, similar?" So that is the story behind the Panerai brand getting reestablished and becoming one of the iconic watchmakers of this generation. And you would see, especially 20 years ago, it was the hottest watch in the world. All the celebrities, all the business people, especially celebrities and athletes, because they love big watches. You have a big athlete, he needs a watch that fits his wrist, right? That goes, symmetrical with all his other clothing and accessories. So this Panerai fit the bill. It was big, it was heavy, it was strong, it was durable, it looked great, it was clean, black dial typically, on a strap, beautiful look. And he gave them out, and that's how there was a movie, I think, with Barbra Streisand called A Star is Born. Well, that's how the watch brand Panerai was born. So what we have here is a beautiful example of one of their large case Panerai watches. It weighs it's very heavy in weight. It's a solid block of stainless steel. It has what's called a black dial, engraved luminescent hands and markers. It has a sub-second hand on the right. It has the date on the left. It has a very beautiful high-quality automatic movement. It has a thick 3mm glass. Just really a black crocodile strap. Stunning to look at. This particular watch, they made only 500 pieces in the world. And just all in all, a beautiful watch. I think the retail price on this watch at that time was about $13,000. Today it's probably closer to 15 to 20, and we sell them for about half. So they're really one of the nicest watches. It's incredibly difficult to break one of these watches. So if you have any that you wish to have an estimate on, appraised, so this is a completely different watch. It took the watch market by storm. Okay, and if you should have any questions about this brand, or are interested in any Panerais, or you have any you want to repair or sell, please contact us. We will be happy to talk to you further about them, etc., etc., etc.